Hello, Natroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So, today, what are we doing? We're working on radar. You know, the thingy that is in those like towers where they watch the planes, and the sweep goes around, and they always see the little blip appear on the screen as the sweep goes by. Anyway, we're making one of those. Oh, this is per request of a user in Facebook, Martin Levi. We've done a few of his requests in the past. Anyway, Martin had asked, he wanted to do a countdown, so we're also going to be doing that in addition to this. But we want to sort of make this a little more generalized. In fact, let's take a look at what our ultimate goal is going to be today. So today's goal is going to be this. And as we can see, it's counting down. We don't need to get all the way down to 0, but it goes all the way down to 0, and then it repeats itself after it finishes the sweep. So, well, yeah, we'll let it go. All right, here it is, 0, and then it starts over again, and we can see. Anyway, all right, so here we are, Natron. So, one of the big problems with this is, of course, how do we make a sweep or something that sweeps like that? There's a lot of ways of potentially approaching this, and a lot of people made a lot of interesting suggestions, but there are flaws with a lot of the different ways. The way that Martin was trying to do it was to do it with motion blur, and a lot of people might say, "Oh, poor Bill, it's motion blur." It's not actually motion blur. Motion blur would be the exact wrong thing, because motion blur is actually a linear process. When you open up a camera shutter, it stays open, and the movement that happens across it is if the movement is continuous, then the blur will be continuous from the point that it opens until the point that it closes. And so you'll wind up with a completely linear streak if it's just a line sweeping across. And that's not what happens. What happens with these types of things is we have the sweep is going across, and it's lighting up phosphors on the screen. And then what happens is the phosphors sort of after they've been lit up by the electron beam that hits them, they glow for a little while afterwards, called an after image or an afterglow. Anyway, so we need to create this. And so, all right, let's see. What's the first thing we're going to do? We are going to add ourselves. We need to first of all build ourselves a sweep. So let's start off with a rectangle. So we're going to type in rect to get us a rectangle. Let's link that up right here, and it's going to be, of course, too big because it's a full-size screen. We're going to change this to, I've got all the dimensions. We're going to just pull this off of my reference. It's going to be 535. It's going to be excuse me, the width is going to be 10. All right, we're going to make it 10 wide, and then we're going to make it 500. We're going to make the height is going to be 535. Why? Because we're going to be putting this into a well, anyway, we'll see. So we can see it off here on the left. It's a little small right now, probably not very noticeable. We also, I think, can we offset this? We're going to offset this by, yeah, we're going to offset this. We're going to set this to 955, all right? And we're going to set it to 540, which is going to put it right smack dab in the middle of our screen. And if we turn off our overlays for the time being, we can see this is going to be our sweep. All right, and this sweep is going to be crucial to this is the magic, where the magic is going to happen, because this is what we're going to be using to build our actual afterglow and everything. We're going to actually build this very much in the way that a real radar will work. So let's turn on our overlays again. And all right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to transform this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make it rotate. I just want to see something. Let me just see what oh yeah, all right. So we're going to set it so that we're going to put a transform on here. And we're going to set it, as we can see that we want to reset our center on the transform, because right now it's set to the center of our rectangle. When we hit reset our center, it's going to reset it there. All right, so we're going to just enter it manually. 960, whoops, no, not 360, 960 by 540, which should be the center of the screen. All right. So that's the normal defaults, because we're doing an HD resolution, which is typical. And then we're going to go to the rotate, and we're going to set an expression here. And all we're going to do for the expression is we're going to say that we want to have this thing rotate constantly. So we're going to say it, we're going to say at every, let me just pull up mine to make sure I get this. I don't want to, we're going to basically being frame times -1. All right. And so you say, all right, frame -1. All right, well, what's that do? The reason we're doing -1 is because a negative number causes it to rotate clockwise versus counterclockwise. Positive numbers do counterclockwise. So if we just hit play, we'll see that this causes it to sweep around continuously. For every frame, it moves exactly 1 degree of rotation. So obviously, to get it to rotate a full 360 degrees, we can't do that in our standard 250 frame animation. But that's okay. We don't need it to sweep 250 frames yet. We'll worry about that, its actual rotation, in a bit. We also need to, let me think about this. We're going to duplicate this. We're gonna not duplicate it, excuse me, not duplicate it, we're gonna clone it. We're gonna hit Alt K, clone this, because we're going to be feeding this. We're going to be using this for 2 purposes. We're going to be making this into our actual sweep, and we're going to be making it, I gotta think about this for a minute. You know what? I think I did it one way. I think we're going to do this slightly different at this point. We're going to just keep it right now 1 transform for the moment. We are going to, well, I think we're going to do is we're going to do a frame blend. So frame blend. All right, we're going to do a frame blend. We're going to put this off to the side here. So why are we doing a frame blend? Well, because with the frame blend, we can tell it that we want to look at this for basically how many frames do we want to look at? We want to look at 360 frames into the past. Why? Because that gives us a full sweep, as we can see right here. Now, it may not look like it's a full sweep at this point, but that's actually partially because we're not looking at it correctly. We're looking at an average. We want to look at the sum of everything together, so we can see that it creates this sweep. Now, this may not look like it's a perfect sweep, and it's not perfect, but that's okay. We're doing this in 1 degree increments. We could make this thinner, but we're using the thickness of this intentionally because we want it to fade nicely. So anyway, it allows us to control that. So that's a glitch up in the top here. I don't know why that's just a redraw glitch. Anyway, fit that back. Boom. There we go. All right. So now to get to get our actual to get our radar sweep, the toning, to make this sweep, what we need to do is we need to actually dim this. And the way we're going to dim this is simply we're going to add decay to this. So what we want to do is we are dealing with 360 frames. So what we want to do is pull up a good old calculator, and we want to say, well, we want to divide 1 by 360, I believe it is. So let's do 1 by 360, I believe. Oops, 1 divided by 360. Right, there we go. Which gives us 0.002, which we're not going to get into the 0.00727. We're just going to set this to 0.0. You know what? I actually set it to 0.035. It should be good enough. And that will get us this look, which looks a little funny. And I'm not getting the actual same result I got in my other one, which is not good. Perhaps I do need to actually make this out of 2 transforms. All right. Let me just... Oh, never, ever, ever question your old results if you do something and it comes out different. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to clone this after all. We got to select a node, obviously, first. So, okay, let's just see if this fixes the problem. We're going to just pop that there, and we're going to take that, put that in there. And then we're going to put this in. We're going to merge the frame blend version with the other version over it, which should result in that. Well, let me just verify that that was looking correct on my original one, because this is, I'm seeing a different result. I want to make sure if this works, we might just skip back. But I'm seeing 365 mix is, oh. Mix should be, it shouldn't just be hold on one second. Not only do we want it to be 0.035, but we want it to be, we want to bring it in at 0.01. Oh no, 0.1, excuse me, 0.1%. Right. So there we go, frame blend. Let's mix it. But I'm still getting Alright, that is not what I got last time, which is giving us a really weird result. We should not be getting this strobing here, which I'm not liking at all. I want to... We're going to take the max then? We'll just switch it to max, which will give us what we want. And we're going to delete that, and because we don't need that sweep there, we're going to be just keeping it like that. All right. So this will give us our frame blend, because we're going to actually merge this in afterwards. All right. So there we go. We have our sweep. We can see our sweep. That looks the same as what I had. Doesn't matter that we're using max versus, well, it does matter. Use max instead of plus. And we get it. We want to set it to 0.1. And for whatever reason, we're not getting... Well, don't worry about this blip here, or this line here. We will be using this. So, all right. So we're going to discache this. Why are we discaching it? Because we want to get as many frames as we need to make this, and all we're going to tell it. We want to keep we're going to tell it an input, or we're going to tell it manual, and we're going to set it to first frame is going to be negative, we'll just say 360, and to last frame is going to be, we'll say 1. It doesn't matter that we're going beyond that, but that gives us our entire frame range. That way we've cached it. Then what we're going to do is, let me just think about this. No. We're going to just set it to 1. Whoops, what the heck? Whoa, manual, 1 and 1. There we go, first frame, last frame. It doesn't matter. We're going to get 1 frame. It's going to have the whole frame blend because we've already cached it. What am I thinking? Of course, we want to cache it there. Then we want to hold it. Frame, hold. Why are we doing this? So that it doesn't have to redraw this every, oops, no, frame. I'm batting 1,000. Frame, hold. There we go. Frame hold. We got our frame hold. We're going to put that here. Look at that. We're going to set that so that first frame is going to be frame 0, which as we can see is pointing up and down. Let me make sure I've got, that's what I used on my original. Yep, that's exactly what I used. And as you can see, by doing that, it's offset it back 1 frame. It doesn't matter. We can discache this. You know what? We'll set this to 0 and 0. Why? Because we wanted this to match our other the frame hold that we're holding. That way it doesn't rebuild it every frame. All right, so here we go. We've cached frame 0. We're holding frame 0. Now, The whole reason we're doing this is so that it doesn't have to recalculate 360 frames every or positions every time we want to update this. We want to move this after it's drawn this one time. So we're going to do a transform node at, or a transform at this point, and this is where we're actually going to do the animation of our actual screen. This is what we're going to use to do it. All right, so we're going to set our rotation. We're going to add a new expression here. So we're going to set an expression here, and we're going to say parenthesis frame -1, okay, because we want to start off with frame 0. All right, times 5 times, excuse me, -5. All right, which is going to give us a negative number, which is going to move us in a positive direction. Again, there we go. So let's go here. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Don't worry about this error. The error is minor. It's not going to actually affect our output in any way, or at least it shouldn't affect our output in any way. If this does turn out to be giving us an error in the future, what we will do is we will do a merge with something to give us a fixed background. You know what, we might do that anyway, just to make sure that this is going to work, because I'm a little worried that this is not working due to let's do a constant over here. No, let's do a solid. Yeah, let's do a solid. We're going to merge it, going to put it here, keep it like that. That way it's tell it that we're going to use the output of B. There we go. Let's go here. Why are you doing that? Alt P. There we go. Warning. It's still saying it's a warning. All right. Why are we getting a warning here? It could be because, let me just double check. That's it. Okay, over there. I'm just going to double check this, make sure. I'm not going to worry too much. It doesn't like it for whatever reason, but we should wind up with something fine. NaN values. It's saying NaN values. Why are we getting NaN values? All right. NaN values, if we say it negative, how about 1 to minus... No. All right. Well, how about this? We'll do one more thing. This could be because we're merging it. You know what? I'm wondering if perhaps this will give us better results. Let's take a look. See. Alt P. There we go. That fixed the error. There we go. All right, and then we're getting our frame blend. And there we go. Now if we hit Alt P. All right, so what the problem was is that it was getting NaN numbers, which means it didn't have it was seeing the alpha channel and getting an error on the frame blend. So what we did is we put a solid in here so that it blended it with the background, and so it had black was actually black versus alpha channel. All right, so that we wind up with this. It doesn't matter for what our purposes. This will work, or it's going to work. That's weird that we're getting. There we go. All right, that's looking better. So now what we want to do is we want to clone this. So we're going to Alt K our transform node here, because we want to put the sweep on top of this. Now you're saying to yourself, why do we need a sweep on top of this? Well, because we're going to be blending this lower sweep, this rear sweep, with things that are happening after it, and we don't want to blend in the actual sweep on top. So we want to have a separate version of this that is actually a version of this that is clean. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to actually do this frame hold as well. We're going to just take that, put that there. Let's see if that gives us, hopefully this won't give us too much of a problem, and everything will look good. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to put a clamp node here. The clamp node what we're going to do is just keep it at 0 and 1. I do believe, let me double check. Yes, 0 and 1. We're going to keep it all pre-multiplied. Then what we're going to do is we're going to be taking the output of this. We're going to be splitting this into multiple points. So we're going to put a merge node here. So we're going to put a dot node out here. Not a merge node, a dot node. We're going to clamp it, connect that into the clamp. We're going to put this in like, we're going to take, excuse me, the A input, put it in like so. We're going to multiply this. We're going to set this to multiply. All right. And why are we doing this? This is to create the actual glow of the sweep. All right. We're using the multiply to do this. All right. What we're going to do is set this to 0.71. And we can see that that creates, what this is doing is it is dimming this down. It's multiplying it and it dims it down a bit. So we can see before, after. That just tones it down. That's the whole point of this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and merge the original sweep on top of this, just to ensure that the sweep doesn't disappear. Then what we're going to do is put a, we're going to create the outer ring to this entire thing. So the outer ring of our scope, we need to here put a radial. Now our scope, I'm going to let people know that our scope is going to be a bit big. It's going to go to the edges of the screen. We can scale this down. That's actually what I did for the actual video, because it was to the edge of the screen. But that's that gives us a little bit of playroom. This was built to that size. So what we're going to do is set this to 1920 by here. Let's look at this. We're going to set this to. Oops, we're going to set this to 1080, I believe. Let me make sure that's what I used in my original 1080. We're going to set the bottom left to 420, which actually is the equivalent of basically hitting the center button for this. What we're going to do is set the softness to 0.001, and that's going to give us just a slightly anti-aliased edge. All right, so fit that. Then what we're going to do is instead of doing an erode or a dilate or anything like this, all we're going to do is we're going to actually merge this with a transformed version of itself. So we're going to do a dot node here. We're going to put a T for transform, and we're going to just transform it, and we're going to superimpose it, and we're just going to take that and we're going to shrink it down, and we're going to shrink it down to 99% of its size. So we're going to go here to scale, set it to 0.99. And then we're going to take this and we're going to just tell it that we want to take this version, the transformed version, and subtract it from the original, which will give us black. All right. And then we're going to take that and we're going to merge it over. Whoops. Merge this. We're going to take our sweeping scope. We're going to merge it. Put it behind this, so we wind up with this as our ultimate scope design. So here is our scope layout. Now, mind you, again, we can scale this up and down once it's all done and composited. So now what we need is we need to work on our actual scope, our blips, what our blips are going to come into. All right, so our blips are going to come in from behind this. So that's what this little branch over here is for. So we're going to put a little dot here, dot node connected up over here. And we're going to use this and we're going to put a multiply over here. So we're going to tab, type in multiply. Now, why are we doing multiply? We're going to actually be taking this and increasing. Right now, what we're seeing is this is a tiny bit of the overall glow of this entire thing. So we want to stretch this glow so that it can affect the entire image behind it. So what we're going to do is multiply it by quite a bit, actually. We're going to multiply it by 20 times its original value. All right. So it gives us something that looks like this. And I'm actually getting a slightly different result. So this may look a little bit different. We may have to play with this. Understand that I'm skipping a bit. I did a merger in my original one, and I also did this as addition in the original one, whereas now we're doing it as a max. So we're winding up with a slightly different result. The original one had more of a glow towards the center. We shall see how this affects things. And I apologize for this. We might just to be on the safe side, I'm going to just go back here to this frame blend and just see if switching it back to sum fixes the problem. Ah, there we go. Oh, no, we're still having some blending issues here. I don't like this. I don't know why we're getting this weirdness going on here, but I don't like it. And you know what? I'm wondering if perhaps I'm just looking to see if I did something extra this in the original one. I'm not seeing anything. We're going to switch it back to max. Max works fine. We'll get it, but you can see that there's this glow that's happening here. We're not going to worry about that glow. I thought it added a nice little characteristic to it. We're not going to worry. It's not that big a deal. We'll still get a nice consistent glow at the end. So anyway, switching it back, it will eventually catch up with us. Well, it's just doing the frame blends. So what are we going to do here? So that we've multiplied it 20 times, that's going to make it really bright around the edge. Then we're going to tell it that what we want to do is merge something into this. We want something to merge and use this. So we need something to use. We're going to make a radar blip for the time being. So we're going to put in another radio for right now, and we're going to make it really, really small. Let's take a look at that. We're going to make we'll make it really tiny. Let's see. I want to keep these together, so we're going to make it just, we'll get it down. We'll make it size 20 so that we can still see it. And we can pull this around, put it like right here so that when the sweep comes by, we'll just take a look at what that looks like. That's just going to be a blip like that. And what we're going to do here, let's put that dot node up a little bit. We actually don't need that anymore now that we've got our multiply in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to merge this blip into this. Okay, so what we're going to do is with this multiply, we're going to hit M to hit merge. We're going to take this and put this in as a source. And what I'm going to just do is I'm going to hit a period node so that we can easily change this out with other things later. And we're also going to be adding more to this again afterwards. So we're going to take this. Let's hope this is going to work. Let's look at this. So we go here, and what we're going to do over here, let's fit this. Hopefully this, it's not fitting. There we go. What we're going to do here for this merge over is we're going to change this from over to in. And what that's going to do is whenever this passes over the dot, it will make it blip. It should be in. Wait a minute. That's interesting. We're not getting in. It is not doing in. I'm wondering, okay, let me do something here. Oops. We got some funkiness going on this time. Natron's acting a little weird. Might have to shoot Natron. Let's just see if this fixes it. Because we should be not seeing this. Until it passes through it. All right, so there we go. Let's try this again. There it goes. There we go. All right, so the problem is we need a constant up here and not a solid because we need the alpha channel. I was not thinking about that at the beginning, so instead make sure you put a constant up there as opposed to a solid. That should still work. Everything else should be fine. So here we go. We have our original, we can see our sweep going around here. And over here we have our blip. Now our blip isn't going to, this blip, which is right here, our source, is not going to show up until it passes through, until the sweep gets around to its location. And then it's going to fade off because it is lit by this. This is going to be the thing that dictates what it is. All right. So then we're going to take this because it's in. We're going to do a clamp here, tab clamp, just to ensure that it gets it. And then what we're going to do is merge this. We're going to do a period, connect up to the radial. And we're going to do a merge. And we're over here, we're going to just do a hard light. We're going to tell this that we wanted to hard light it. Hard light. All right. So that is what I did in the original. Let's see if this is going to work here. Let's see if this is good. Mind you, again, all these changes, every time we make a change, things could go wrong. So there we go. We can see it. What the hard light will do is it will make the, it should make this disappear faster. I just want to make sure my blips are, everything is set correctly. Oh yes. This clamp node, one of the things we want to do is we want to enable our maximum and our minimum because we want it to be brought down so that the whites are white and the blacks are black. That's just in case. The problem is that what we could have is some sources could come through, could be put into this, and if they are or if they're too, I'm trying to think of them. If we have negative numbers that are coming into this, it could cause some issues. So anyway, we don't want them to alter this. So all right, so now that we have this, what we want to do is merge this again and put our radar scope on top of it so that when this sweeps by, and hopefully we will have something at this point that when it sweeps by, and as you can see, this effect renders very quickly. Oh, and there's our dot. It's way out at the edge. It's not very bright. So we may want to increase the brightness of this overall. I don't like how quickly that falls off. Another thing we can do is we can take down the this dot here is not very bright either. Or it's very soft on the edge. So we're going to change the softness. We'll set this to 0.0, say 1. It should be, whoops, not 1. 0.1. Let's just do 0.1, which should give that a slightly harder edge. Let's go back it up before the blip. There we go. And we can see it goes by. Now that's looking really soft to me. Okay. So that's not as hard as I expected it to be. And that is probably because we've changed the methodology that this is using. So let's try cranking up the value of this. Does that increase our brightness? It is not. So then the question becomes, is that because, okay, it is not because of that either. Oh, Natron. Let's see if we put this back at the frame blend back to some, if this is going to give us an error. We are definitely getting lines through it, which I did not get in my original, and I'm not sure why. So I'm gonna just look at it for a minute and try and figure out why. I do know why this is why we're getting the lines. I forgot something. I forgot one crucial aspect of this. I know why it's not working. The reason it's not working is in my original sweep, I did use motion blur. I wanted to motion blur that 360 degrees. So what we're going to do is set the motion blur on, and I skipped this. Here we go. We'll put the motion blur on. And we're going to set the motion blur to a shutter angle of 1. All right? And you want to say, why are we putting it to a shutter angle of 1? Well, what we can see that's done is it's softened the edges of this a bit on the sweep. So what that's going to do is it's going to make it more intense in the center. All right. So that was a crucial bit. I skipped. I got ahead of I skipped a bit, and see, now when we go to this and we use our sum, I bet you we're going to wind up with a much better. Let's look at our end result down here. Let's grab this and focus on it at full screen. Now I bet it'll look a bit better because the fall off, this causes fall off on the edge, which should make it work better. Sorry everybody. We troubleshoot, figure out what our bugs are. This does mean it's going to take a little bit longer because we obviously have to dish cache the entire frame blur as well. Or the motion blur, excuse me. Let me make sure for that motion blur, yes, motion blur was 0.1. Yeah. All right. This is going to take it a minute to calculate it out. There we go. Now it's not, whoops, now it's, all right, it was nice. Now we can see it's being nasty. All right. There we go. So this is going to give us a much better motion blur on the overall edge. And everything should work better. Let's focus this. Let's actually go over to our final sweep. This will actually render very quickly once it's built that cached frame. It just takes it a few minutes to cache that one frame. For the disk cache, for the thing. All right, so yep, should be 0. I'm just double checking and making sure it all matches up to my original. Yes, that is what I used. We're telling it the frame holds frame 0, which means that the entire animation should be caused by this. Now, let's see, this multiply. Whoa, this is way too much. We should set this to, but it's still looking, well, it's looking better, but it's not looking perfect. So let's take a look, see at what we've got. First of all, let's set this multiply back to 20, because that's what I originally had. And let's just watch this. This should go really quick. But now we get the nice glow at the inner edge, which I really liked, because usually with vector scopes like this, things get brighter the closer to the initial point. Things, when movements happen in old radars or in old cathode ray tubes, you get a brighter center point and so forth, and it just makes it look a little more authentic and whatnot. Anyway, we passed our initial point. I want to just see, it's looking a little dark to me. I don't know why it's so dark. We'll worry about that if I don't get, if this does not do what I want it to do. I will do one more thing to it, which should hopefully fix everything. I hope. Or do, oh, we'll see. Making sure this is looking right. Everything's looking correct at this point. That's 0.71. Yep. This is correct. 2020. Oh, wait a minute. This should not be pre-multiplied. This needs to be unchecked, this unpremult. Let's take a look-see here. This we want to keep on pre-multiplied, or we want to keep the unpremult checked. All right, that should change things a little bit. Let's see if that changes things. Let's put it back here. it may make it brighter if everything worked out right. Nope, that did not make anything change. All right. Well, that I had hoped was going to cause a change. Double checking. In, everything's good. Clamp. Clamp. This. That, and that's clamped before that goes out. So this should not be... Let me just double check this clamp. Yep, that clamp is set the correct same way. Yep, no, everything, according to this, everything is set up correctly. We're just getting a much darker result this time than I recall getting in the past. Let me try and check out a radar blip on my original and just see if I'm getting everything the way I think I'm supposed to. All right, let's continue on. We're going to pretend that this is working fine. All right, I'm going to assume this is actually working correctly. What we really don't have here is obviously we need to color this. We need to do a merge node, and we need to put a solid onto this to give us our color, and we're going to merge the solid on top of it and tell it that the color is going to be, let me get the exact green I used. I believe it was this green right here. Let me check. That is not the green I used. Let me just check what green I used. I don't even know what green I used. I used some random green. Let me just see. Nope, I didn't use that. Didn't use that. Didn't use cancel. Maybe I used, is it this one? Aha. All right, I figured out which one we used. I used this one right here. So that's going to be our green that we use. All right, and then we're going to switch the over to multiply. And let's see if we get a better blip. Let me just verify this is at softness is 1. This is 1. This is all good. Let me check my original. Where's that? Yes, that's definitely much brighter at that point. So the question becomes, why are we much brighter there? Well, I'm not going to worry too much. We have our blip. Let me make sure I have my radial settings correct. Size is 20, 1. Everything else is proper. Softness is 1. This is just not as bright as it is on the other one. For some, computer is acting a little funny. Oh no, I lost my reference project. Well, we're not going to worry about it too much. All right. We are going to just assume that this, let's just try some things here. Let us I don't, originally my thought was, oh, you know what it is? There's what our problem was. Our multiply node here was not multiplying the alpha channel. So the alpha channel, I thought this was the brightness control. And I'm like, why isn't it getting brighter when we make it brighter? Well, because we weren't multiplying the alpha, and we need to multiply against the alpha in order to make it brighter. So if we set this to 20, now this controls how bright our blip is. That is what this control does. There we go. There was a problem. All right, so 20 is the value. Why do we need this 20? Well, this is actually going to determine how long this is going to stay on the scope. So for example, if we go past this, let's go way out here. Whoops, let's go back here. All right. So we can, if we keep cranking this up, eventually we're going to get to a point, I think, I hope, where, all right, right back here, we can see that it's still visible even way out here. We pull this up, we can go up, we're going way up. We can go up to 3,000 and it's still visible. So this is not a a linear thing. So what this allows us to do is to determine exactly how long this multiply node, the whole point of it was to tell us how long that blip is going to stay on the screen. Now, why do I have it at 20? Well, because I found out that that 20, which is way smaller than this number that we had. Oops, not 0. We want 20. There we go. 20. The reason we want 20 is because I actually want our the thing that we blip to disappear roughly around just after the halfway mark at the most. All right, and the reason that I want that is because we want it so that on the next sweep we can change something. In order to update it, we can't have the image there and update it. So that creates some problems, and so this gets into what one of the goals of today is to make numbers that change. I want to, in addition to this, just to show that we can do whatever we want to here, I want to add an SE noise. SE noise. So we're going to just put an SE noise in here instead of the radio, and put that in there. And we can, just so we can see, let's just change our gain a little bit. Let's set this to 1, so it's nice and scattered, and we'll make the pattern a lot bigger so that it's really spread out, and we'll make it, we'll increase the linearity. Actually, let's reduce the linearity. This is just not looking interesting to me. Let's drop that back down. I want more clutter and difference. Let's try and well, that's fine. We've got something that works. So here we go. So by putting this on here, when we hit play, we can see that we wind up with basically the equivalent of whatever we put behind it, and we get this glow that happens across the entire image. And it just makes it look like there's a real radar scope here, and things are falling off in a very radar-like way, and it keeps things more linear. And that's actually, part of that is due to that little extra blip that we did down there at the bottom, where it's a little bit brighter. It actually adds to it just adds to it. All right, so let's change this so that instead of doing SE noise, let's look at how would we make it so we can do a countdown. Well, obviously for a countdown, we want to use a text node. So let's hit tab, type in text, put a text draw down here. Let's draw our text in here, boom. And for our text node, we are going to, oh, I lost my reference. All right, I gotta, pardon me, well, I launch another version of Natron because I do need that back up for our reference. But while we're here, I'm going to just save this project. Note that I keep 2 versions. I don't ever run my Natron that I'm using as a reference in the same version as the version that we're using for the stream. That way we can actually see it. So I apologize. I'll probably restart and cut that bit out. But while we're at this, let's actually put in a number. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this off at actually, well, what we're going to do is we're going to count down from 11 actually. So we're going to start this off counting down from 11. Let's get to the point where we need to see where this is actually positioned. So let's look at this here. So here's our 11. We want to make this obviously bigger. I think I made it 250 for its size. And I believe I then just dragged it around. For right now, let's go back over here. And let's, because we can't see it, let's scan this forward until we get to a time where it's actually showing up. And there we go. Let's, all right. So I think I did, did I do a center interact? I might have. Let's try and offset this. Yes. So center interact, and then what I did is I just dropped this down a bit. I think I dropped it down to around 240, right around somewhere in this area. should be good enough. So here we go. So as we can see, when if we start this off and we hit play, we can see that it fades out. Now, one of the problems that we can see is that if we start off with 11, it obviously is visible at the end, or the end of the 11 is visible right up until it gets hit. So what we need to do is, because we're starting this off with a double digit, we need to make sure that this part of the 1 is gone before the sweep hits it at this point, which is, we can see it's hitting it right here at frame. So at frame 29 is where we're going to actually have it, have this 11 basically come into existence. All right. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's simple. We are going to, first of all, as soon as I get the other Natron up, let me restore that. Open recent, countdown 01. I'm going to restore that. That should bring it back to where it was, and move it off to my other screen very nicely. All right. So, right, we want the countdown. I'm pulling that up. There we go. All right, so I set it actually to 960 by 280. And we did center interact, and scale, the font size was 250. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in an expression here for the text. And the expression, let's edit the expression. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a couple variables. All right, this is going to be a multi-line, so we'll click on multi-line. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a variable called countdown. So count down. All right, and we're going to set that to equal to 10. All right, that's how many what our countdown is going to basically subtract from it in order to get to 0 or to whatever. All right. Then we're gonna for line 2, we're gonna type in we're gonna make a thing called offset, and we're gonna set that equal to, now the offset is simple. The offset is where we want the sweep to basically engage, where we're gonna change the number. As I said, we already just figured this out. We said it's frame 29, so in this case it's going to be frame 29. If you wanted to change at a different point in time, you just set this to whatever frame. You just scroll through your thing until you get to the point where you need it to change. But you do have to realize that if it's visible in the sweep, if your thing is still visible in the sweep, you're going to need to update or change the duration of how much that brightness is, this brightness over here, this multiply. You might have to reduce the brightness in order for it to disappear. Part of the purpose of this highlight was to protect at the afterwards, is so that the glow sort of fell off quicker after a certain point. It sort of stays glowy for a while, and that actually, the hard light, that's one of the reasons that the hard light in conjunction with the multiply is why we have to push that multiply up so high in order to get it to retain or stay visible later on. That hard light is actually emphasizing it, or making it so that it stays glowing and looks like it's falling off at a natural rate, but then sort of just falls off. Anyway, it gives it a more natural look. Anyway, so we did our offset. Now, as people who may know me from the past or have watched me from the past, I like to use my output variable is going to be called out. That's what we're going to be sending back to this when we're done. And so what is out going to be? Out is going to be countdown, okay, minus parenthesis frame. So we're going to take our current frame, whatever frame, we're going to subtract from it our offset. So we get whatever frame we're on, minus our offset, okay? And now we also have to talk about one other thing, all right? So we're going to divide this by our, we have to know how long it takes for our sweep to go around in one full circle, all right? So before we can do that, we would have to, I'm going to save us some trouble. All right. We said, I don't know if everybody remembers, but we said and this won't allow us to see this. What we said is that we had, we're rotating this. Our transform is a unit, we're doing it in 5-degree increments, all right? So if we say 360 divided by 5, it means that's 72. So in 72 frames, it will take exactly 72 frames for the sweep to do one full rotation, because we told it again that we were doing the increments of our sweep by 5. All right, so what we need to do here is divide this by our total sweep time. So we know that's 72 because we just did our math, and we say that. All right, so that's what we get. We're going to hit return, and of course now we want to return our value, so we're going to do return equals. Now, of course, this is text node, so we can't return an actual integer or even a floating point. We have to return a string because it's a text node. So we're going to go str parenthesis, and then we're going to type in out. That's what we're going to do, and we can see that it gives us our value is 10. All right, so here we go. So that's what that is. And so now let's go back to the beginning. And let's watch this. All right, so we're starting off at 11, and we're going to just play through this. Now, this renders very, very quickly, as we can see. And what will happen is on frame 29, it's going to change to 10. And so there we go. We see there's our 10. Now, I am seeing something that is making me wonder if perhaps we are not. I just want to look at something here. Oh, right. I do want to make sure. Right, this frame hold here, we want to keep. Oh. Right, this frame hold needs, we need to be off by 1 frame. All right, so, all right, let me go back here. So we can see that right here, we can see a little bit of glow happening before our leading our line. And I don't think we want our glow leading our line. I think well, let me just double check and make sure that's, see if that's actually happening in our real McCoy. Well, that's weird. Oh, it's redrawing. I gotta wait for my my Natron and my other version of Natron to catch up. But I think, yes. All right, so we're off. What we need to do, we need to offset this frame. Just double check. Did I offset this by 1? So this frame here needs to be off by, or reversed by 1 number. Let me just double check something here. I want to look. This is the decay. Did I do an offset in here? Frame interval is 1. I'm just double checking a couple things. Whoops, that's not the frame blend. Frame blend. Frame blend. There was some blah blah blah. 0.1. Yep. Everything's looking good. All right. The reason what I'm looking for is I want to see here, one of the problems that we face is that we're getting a bit of an extra glow. I think that might have been why I had this extra bit in here. All right, so there's a glow happening here that I don't have in my original, and I don't think it's actually related to it. I think we're just off by 1. So what we're gonna do is we're going to add a transform node here. Whoops, we're gonna add a transform node here. And on this transform node, we're going to, it should, you know what? We're not going to do, yeah, we're going to do it here. We're going to just set this to, this new transform node, we're going to set it to 960 by 540 so that its center point is the same. All right, we need to show our overlays so we can see this. All right, so, all right, why is that? Something's off, I think. Yes. All right. It's taken a little while for Natron to catch up to us. And whoops. So people are understanding. I'll try and go over what we're about to do. So we're setting this to 960 by 540 to get its center point back to the center, which it is not looking like it's actually doing. All right, that looks correct. All right. And then we're going to rotate this, I think 1 degree forward. But we're, yes, 1 degree forward. All right, we're not seeing, okay, for some reason, Natron was updating that as we were doing it. So, all right, let's just make sure we see what's going on. We're going to, here we go. All right, so here's our rotation. We're going to set it to -1, excuse me. We want to set it to -1 degree. Why are we doing that? Because we don't want the blur to appear beforehand. We want it to appear, any blur to happen from the sweep to happen, the motion blur from the sweep, which is happening over here on this one. This one has the actual motion blur in it. This motion blur, we don't want the motion blur to happen before it, we want it to happen after it. So this transform, when we go back to the first frame, we can see that this is where the motion blur is happening, and when we move back here, we want that to occur. So what happens is when the two composite right here, hopefully, and this is going to take a little while because Natron is rebuilding it. But hopefully we'll see this momentarily. Boy, this is one of those times that I'm tempted to turn on lower res drawing, but we really want to see this as is. So we're going to let it go. Let me see. What time do we have? All right, we're not that bad. We're just over an hour, which is, you know, this is taking a little longer than originally thought, but still going well. Boy, live streams. You know what? All right, so the problem that we have is apparently the disk cache is rebuilding itself every time we scale in and out. So what I think, I'm just debating about this. You know what we might do? This is just going to take it forever to do this. So I now regret doing this. Just know that we add that transform. This transform is going to be used. I did this differently in my original one. What I had done is I had originally tried to preserve the sweep off on the left, and oh boy, there we go. It's just redrawing itself. So we can see it here ever so slightly. That now by offsetting this by 1 frame, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to make this draw a little bit, a region area. We're going to draw that up to there. We're going to bring this up like so. We're going to zoom in on this like that so that we can zoom in, and hopefully this will allow us to look at this. Yes, there we go. So what did this transform do? All right. This has been cached. Let's set it to 0. Oops, if we set it to 0, we can see this is what it was originally, and we can see that the blur is happening beforehand, or it's happening on the leading edge. And we don't want it to blur on the leading edge, we want it to blur on the trailing edge. So we want to set this to -1, which moves it, and then we can see that that creates a little bit of a motion blur, because we would have actual motion blur with this. This gives us actual motion blur on this in addition to the glow. So this is the motion blur of the sweep. And then the other is the actual, the trail of the afterglow. All right. So that's why we're doing this. All right. So now hopefully we can undo this and have this redraw much, much faster. And it did indeed. And so now we'll go back down here to our end. And we'll look at this. Now, here's the problem. We can see that, and if we get on frame 0, if we're on, or I should say on frame 1, we can see our 11. So that means that this animation obviously is no good at this point. What we really want to do is make it so that this doesn't actually start or become visible until we get to the first frame, which is frame 29. Right? So what we're going to do is set this to 0 for, whoops, not that. Wait a minute. Hold on. That's not the one we want. Which is the one we want? Maybe it's, uh-oh. I got to find the one. Where did I do that? In my original, I had done it with, let's do this back over here. So let me see. Was not here. Was it done? Did I do it here? Is there a mix on that? I swear I had done an animated mix at one point. Maybe it was here. No? No. No. Let me just see something here. Fit. Oh, well, that's not right. That's definitely not right. We're getting I'm getting an afterglow in my original one now. I must have accidentally removed the animation. Okay, so we need to obviously remove the animation of this. So what we're going to do, it's simple. What we'll do is we'll put something in here that can be animated. The easiest way to turn this on and off is, well, we'll put a switch in here, I think. So we're going to say, yeah, no, actually merge nodes are easiest. So we're going to set it so that the background, oh no, that's going to make it so that it doesn't have anything. We need a constant over here, so tab con. Let's put a constant in here. So we're going to put a constant in for the background so that we always have something, and then we're going to put our text over it like so. And what we'll do, so this is our background. This is going to be our animation for controlling whatever goes on to the scope at a given time. So in the case of this countdown, what we want to do is set this to 0 right up until frame 29, basically. So we want to, at frame 29, we want to set a key. So we're going to set a key here. And then on the next frame, I believe it is going to be, let's make sure that it's right. Oh no, on frame 29, we can see it right there. So we want to, on frame 29, we want this to be visible. And then on the previous frame, where it is not visible, we want it to be 0. All right, so there we go. That is how we do the animation for that, and that will allow it to be animated. And then we'll hit play. And now we will get our countdown. We can see that we don't have anything as it starts, and we're going to actually watch this all the way through because we don't actually have to go to our final or to our rendered example, because this renders fairly quickly. Now we are seeing glow over here. Our ROD is changing in size. That's never good. And we do have a problem, which is if we go to our alpha channel, we have an alpha channel, which a transparent alpha channel, which could be good if we wanted to put more in the background or change the color of our scope or something. But in this case, if we're rendering this black on black, what we would want to do is we would want to put this over a something in the background. So we're going to put another solid here. Let's just take this solid. Actually, we can just use this solid here. We've told it, actually, this is a green. Let's just copy this. Oh, no, that didn't work. Copy. There we go. Take this. We'll reset this to its defaults, which is going to be black. We're going to do a merge. And we'll put the other over on top of it. This is just a quick way of doing it, and we can tell it that we want the bounding box of it to be B, which is going to be the solid. So now that will get rid of the ROD shifting around, and it will give us a solid alpha channel. So that's what that will do, and let's rewind this and hit play. And that should be the final thing, and we should wind up with a much faster rendering animation because of that, or hopefully a much faster rendering animation. And let's see. We'll watch it. We're at 10 obviously now. Let's watch it go all the way around to 9 and so on and so forth. But just so people know, we can put whatever we want in here. And if you need to restrict it, if you want to do restriction or restrict it to the bounds of or mask it, we should say, to the bounds of the circle, well, or this radial, all we have to do is take our original radial up here, which is right here, and use that as a mask, or use that as an in. All right. So this was something that was asked as well, is how would we get it so that the radial, what we would do is make it so that the there's something that rotates from the center point, and we would have to create we would have to make an alternating transition that sits inside of this, and it would have to shift from black to white every time it got to the point where we wanted it to change. And then we would have to reveal it, which is a pain in the butt, which is, it's not hard, but it means that we would have to keep 2 copies of our text animation and have them alternate and then mask between them using that. That's how we would do it. It's complicated. I don't know that I want to go into that here. I'm just thinking about how complicated it would be. It'd be a little complicated. It's not too hard. Basically, what you would do is you would have, I'm just trying to think of, it's just easier to show you. What we would do is we would take a rectangle, very much like our original sweep, and we would make it half the size of a screen, and then we would rotate it. And what we would do is we would have another rectangle that would basically invert. It would be the original source rectangle and invert. Anyway, here we go. 10, we can see this, 9, 8, and so on and so forth. Oh yes, we didn't do this for the entire, we didn't stretch this out. Okay, obviously the last thing we would obviously have to do is figure out however many frames this was going to be. Obviously for this animation, because it goes to 0, I want it to end at, I want it to end after 10 loops. Well, obviously if it takes 1 loop is 72 frames, 72 times 10 is 720 frames. So what we would do is go here, hit S, and we would go to pull up our settings for our project, change our last frame to 720, and that would change it. And if we look over here, around here, and we just scrub through this, we can see that there we go. There's our last frame. You know what? I don't think we actually want it to be... Oh, it did do 0. That's weird. Wait a minute. Oh, wait, no, not 720. Of course, we want to go one beyond that because, so we need to have 72 plus this, so it would be 792. Sorry. There we go. And then there we go. And you know what? We're going to just drop this down in resolution. We'll do it at 4 because this should render out just very, very quickly just doing it this way. So we can get this really, really quick. In fact, let's do it even faster. Let's drop it to an 1/8 of its resolution. We don't need it to be... This should fly along at a ridiculous pace. Alright, not ridiculous, but fast enough. Anyway, so we're getting the idea. That being said, I think, did Natron do anything wonky? Did Natron upset us? No, I made the mistake. I can't blame Natron for doing something that I told it or didn't tell it to do, in this case. But remember, motion, I forgot to add the motion blur, so that is why we have this. We could have just, no, we didn't want to clone this because we don't want motion blur on this one. We want our initial sweep to not have no motion blur. We want it to keep our actual shape there and then have the motion blur come off of it. Because it's, remember, it's linear following it, not after it. We want this is a very bright thing. Everything after it should be the glow. All right, so anyway, we're getting the gist. This is taking longer than I had wanted, and we get the general gist with this. So with that done, let's turn this off. We're going to save this project, and I will be uploading this for download, and I'll annotate it and give it to everybody. So today's goal was this, and I'm going to talk through this because it has no music and everything. All I did here was I shrunk it down. It's the same thing that we actually just did, just shrunk down so it doesn't go edge to edge, and so it reads better. And I think we achieved this goal. We get it to count down, and we'll see that we'll get it to 0, and we'll see that it loops back to 10. And here's 0, the 0 sweep. We could have turned it off if we had wanted to, and then it goes back to 10. All right, so that was it. Thanks for watching, and keep on Natroning.